Good morning and welcome to a special E3 wrap-up edition of Chip Chat. Joining me today are a couple of guys you probably recognise from previous episodes. We have Grant from Over the Edge. Hi, Grant.
Hello.
And we have Sully from One Guy's Opinion and latterly Gamecast. How you doing, Sully?
Howdy.
Before we start, I just want to make a brief apology to anyone who expected more from me over the E3 week. I had intended to do more, but I wasn't feeling too well, and I also had a dodgy tooth, which has now been taken out. So apologies for that. But I did sit in on some of the Gamecast shows. So if you want more extensive, detailed coverage of the whole event, go and check them out, and I'll put a link in the description. And Sully can probably tell you a little bit about that at the end of this as well.
We probably made you sick, Joe. That's probably what happened.
Yeah, it was your fault.
Probably specifically Count's fault.
Yeah, and guys, if you do go over, say hello to Count because the poor guy killed himself doing this because he covered every single conference.
Disgusting.
But anyway, moving on from that, let's get into today because we've got a little bit to cover today. And as I say, I just want to do a brief recap of the highs and lows of E3 2018. So let's talk about that. So, Grant, what were your highlights, would you say?
There were a lot of highlights for me. There was a lot of great games coverage. We got to see more of stuff like The Last of Us Part 2. That was a big highlight for me. Just to see some gameplay that some people thought wasn't gameplay. But, I acknowledge some of it looked a bit scripted. But Naughty Dog's animation technique seemed to have improved with each game. And that's what sort of excited me for that game when it finally comes out. It's going to be a step up from the first game, which was great. But I thought one of the things that you could criticise about the first Last of Us was the combat at times wasn't that great, and it looked like with this sequel that they'd sort of they put things up a notch or two, above the sort of high standards even that they set for themselves. There was other stuff like the Cyberpunk trailer. I was really glad to finally see something of that game, even if it was, just sort of a cinematic, pretty much.
It's amazing how a pedigree studio can create so much hype around something when they haven't even shown anything more than like a little CGI cinematic trailer and a title card.
I know.
Very clever.
80s Neuromancer style Cyberpunk game with no gameplay. So, although apparently they have shown gameplay to the press, and they're all falling over themselves about it, apparently. But
yeah, Max from Gamecast attended that behind closed doors event, and he was blown away as well. So
okay,
I want to hear more of that.
I can't
You're
wait to pick his brain
that,
about that because he's allowed to apparently gush as much as he wants. He just wasn't allowed to play it, so that's going to be a lot of fun.
Okay, so he's seen it running, but he's not actually played it.
No, he's seen it demoed, and that's about it. So, but 45-minute demo, that's enough time to wrap your head around, where the game's at and what it is. So I believe I'm going to try get him on a Pocket Edition to specifically pick his brain about just Cyberpunk. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah,
that'll be interesting. Yeah,
it was a good idea. The other thing that was a highlight. I'm not an Xbox owner, as you know, but I thought Microsoft did a great show. They did a great presentation because the way it was put together was good. You could pick holes in what they actually showed because there was only one actual exclusive for this year, which was Forza Horizon 4. But the actual show itself, I thought, created a bit of buzz, which was good for Microsoft because they need it.
Absolutely.
It just felt kind of. I feel like they got the formula right for like demoing and showcasing these games, but there was like a nice, pleasant atmosphere about it all, and I think just with the way they were transparent about what was exclusive at the very start. Like Phil Spencer's like, we have 50 games, 18 of them are exclusive. They'd have launch years for the majority of these exclusive games, and it just felt very transparent and honest, and it was just nice. It just felt nice, and there was a lot of positive energy around it, I think.
Yeah, it was a very positive.
I can't put my finger on exactly what it was, but it just felt refreshing for Microsoft.
There was no bullshit, was there? There was straight down this is what we've got. We're not gonna hide behind it. What we haven't got this time, like they've done in the past. Maybe it was more about, this is it.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what I think it was as well is when they got halfway through and they announced that they'd acquired 5 studios, like Pedigree Studios.
Yeah,
that was a big
like
deal.
Join the portfolio of Microsoft studios. So when they're kind of demoing the games and they have a really positive announcement like that, it kind of is acknowledgement that they know they need to lift their game.
Yeah.
And at that same time, they then, brought a few little gems to the show as well. So it feels like hey, we are legitimately trying to get back on track.
Oh yeah, that definitely felt like that to me. And it was interesting. I saw a Digital Foundry video where they were talking to one of the guys who was there, and Richard Ledbetter, is it? I think, was talking to him from an office, but they were, the other guy was at the conference, and apparently he was saying that the atmosphere in the hall was really positive, much more so than it has been for years at a Microsoft event. Mm-hmm. So, the whole feel of it felt a lot more positive to me. It felt like Microsoft have finally woken up, as I think someone else put it.
Yeah, there's definitely that feel when you were watching it. I mean, I can't imagine what it was like being there, but like you say, watching it, you felt there was a buzz. So there must have been an even more electric buzz in the actual room, being there. So it was good. It was good to see.
Absolutely. And this is one of the first years in a while, probably for the last maybe 2 or 3, that they haven't been bogged down in talking about hardware.
Yeah.
It was just about the games.
Yeah. That's exactly, important.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that the positives from coming out of Microsoft were a lot of them. They talked about Game Pass a little bit as well, and I think that's going from strength to strength. Mm-hmm. In terms of other positives for me, though, if we're getting off Microsoft for a moment, because I think Microsoft did brilliantly from the point of view of a conference and the way they structured it and everything. I agree with you, Sully, on that. Mm-hmm. I think Sony, the conference itself from Sony was a bit of a mixed bag, but the games they showed were astounding.
Yeah.
They were just something else. And I will put in one caveat. The same thing Grant just said about Microsoft. There's only one game coming at the end of this year. And so that's true for Sony as well. We've only got
Spider-Man.
Spider-Man.
Yeah.
But having said that, Sony have got a whole catalogue of games running up to that as well. So you've got to look at it in the round, if you like.
And they've already had
exclusives. Exactly. In Sony's defense, we're halfway through the year. And they've already delivered, God of War. So
exactly.
They're getting 2 big titles this year, whereas what has Microsoft had to this point in time?
Well, nothing. I say nothing. I mean, their 2 big games weren't really that big. Not yet. I mean, Sea of Thieves could go on to be okay. Yeah. If you look at Sony, their lineup, we're not going to argue about that, are we, at this stage? Sony's lineup the last, 18 months, 2 years, has been stellar. Yeah. And Microsoft's Xbox hasn't.
I'd say since the end of the PS3 generation with the launch of The Last of Us, I think that's really or even Uncharted 3, that's probably where it started.
That's true. I think there was a bit of a gap early on with the PS4. I think the first year they didn't deliver a lot.
There wasn't a lot until you got the infamous Second Son in 2014, and then you got Bloodborne the following year. But from that point on, there was it was like a sort of train of exclusives. Like each year had at least 1 or 2,
and their timing has been phenomenal.
Yeah,
just you get one game, you're just kind of getting, most people, not me, because it takes me forever to play a game, but you're just getting to the end of one game, and maybe not you as well, because you finish them in 2 weeks, Grant. But anyway,
I'm still playing God of War, and I've been playing that a lot.
I haven't even started, mate.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's an amazing game. Absolutely amazing. You have to play that game. Yeah. Last on the positives for me, though, I was actually really pleased to hear Bethesda talking about Wolfenstein. This is going to be a surprise because everyone else is talking about what's the name of the game? The
Fallout.
Wasteland. Fallout. Everyone's talking about Fallout, but the one that stuck out for me was Wolfenstein. Is it the New Blood or?
Oh yes, I heard about that. Yeah, Youngblood.
Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah,
which
involves his two daughters. Yeah, so I'm excited about that because I love those games, and they really are nailing the idea of single player games are still viable.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I mean, Machine Games have been brilliant at supporting it. Isn't there? I'm surprised there isn't some controversy about it being 2 girls in the lead roles. Here we go.
Yeah, that's what else I like about it. Watching these people.
Yeah, do they kiss?
Jump.
Not only that. Is it realistic? Were they around in that time period? That non-existent fantasy time period. yeah, Battlefield,
Jesus.
exactly.
Yeah.
Oh,
we're getting
dear.
heavy now.
So yeah.
Because
So
that's important.
on many levels that made me laugh, because I thought that the reaction to the previous Wolfenstein, the New Order, was it the New Order, the most recent one?
The New Colossus.
The New Colossus,
Yeah.
that's the one. The reaction to that was ridiculous as well.
Totally.
And I just thought Machine Games have just gone, yeah, up yours.
Yeah, you.
What
We
did
don't
you?
care.
Just a little side note. That was probably one of my little highlights of E3. Silly little highlights was Todd Howard. It's here. You've all been waiting for it. And he takes a little stab at Bethesda and themselves, and he had that comedian on the couch playing Skyrim. They'd released on another system, being the Alexa, and then he gets to
That
go to
was
his fridge. And he's
brilliant.
playing on his Samsung
That was
fridge and
great.
all that shit.
Yeah, I love that.
That was so knowing. Yeah, that was
Apparently, that
brilliant.
might actually be a thing.
Yeah, it is
Alexa
apparently a
thing.
real game.
Yeah, it started as a joke, and they're like, you know what? Fuck it. This is fun. Let's just roll with it.
I love that they can take the piss out of themselves like that.
It's good, isn't it? It's healthy.
Yeah, it shows real confidence.
It
And
shows that they're
you know,
grounded in reality.
Yeah, that's true. That's
It
true.
is. I mean, Fallout. I'm a big Fallout fan, and Fallout 76 does interest me, but I'm just a little bit wary of it being online only. That's my only sort of caveat,
Yeah.
because it's like, how is that going to work? My biggest concern is if people can exploit something, they will do it in an online game, and they will hassle you. And if that's too much of a thing in the game, it's going to put me off a bit, I think.
Now,
It'll kill it.
I could be wrong, but I swear I heard Todd Howard say it is online, but you can play alone if you choose to do so.
Yeah. So
So
that
I'm
means
assuming
you
they'll
don't.
make you connect to the server like there's like a DRM type thing, I'm guessing, but you can play alone.
Yeah, there's no offline mode at all, though. He said, didn't he? So if you don't want to play with others, I guess you can choose. If you can choose not to, that's good.
Yeah, because I think if that wasn't the case, there would be a lot of outcry for like the Fallout purists just wanting to get lost in their own exclusive experience.
Yeah, and someone comes along and steals your stuff and murders you.
I actually really like that idea. Like I was talking to it with a couple of buddies who love the Fallout series. I've always kind of been interested in the Fallout series, but never quite had enough time to really throw myself at it. And we just found it amusing that, like some of the issues that could arise from having an online environment was these freaking nukes. Like you don't need to give an online environment
Yeah, the nukes,
like
exactly.
nukes.
Yeah.
People can be pestering enough without nukes, but we're talking about like somebody like me who likes to really craft and tailor and get creative, and I could see myself building a nice little camp while these other fuckers are off collecting the nuclear codes and then just bomb me.
Yeah, that's what's going to happen.
20
isn't it?
hours into. Yeah, exactly.
The thing is, you can take your camp with you, which I thought was quite interesting. You can actually pack up. If you build something, you can pack it up and take it not only somewhere else, but to another server, which is quite interesting.
That's cool.
Yeah. So
that
if
is
your
cool,
mates
yeah.
are on another server, you can just say, well, I'm taking my camp and I'm joining them, So
Yeah, I like that. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think they've really thought about it.
We have to put one caveat though, and that's that this is Bethesda, and
yeah.
regardless of the fact they make fantastic games, the games often release and they're quite janky to begin with.
Oh god, can you imagine what 76 is going to is I mean, they said they developed it at the same time as Fallout 4, which is why it's pretty much done already. But I can still see it launching and having a lot of issues because it's normal for Bethesda.
You know what I think
Absolutely.
it might have been? I wouldn't have been surprised if it was originally meant to be the online version of Fallout 4, but it wasn't ready.
Yeah,
And they've just kind of expanded upon
good
the idea
point.
now.
I reckon you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I reckon that it was probably meant to be part of Fallout 4.
Yeah,
And-
because the turnaround time is kind of staggering. It's been wasn't last year, but the year before Fallout came out, wasn't it? So it's not. It's been maybe 2 years.
November 20. I think it's
16.
Is it 2016 or 2015 that Fallout came out? Because I'm
Well,
not.
if it's 2015, it's 2.5 years. But
Yeah.
I mean, the turnaround time for Skyrim and Fallout, it's like 5 years, isn't
Oh
it?
yeah,
Yeah.
Skyrim. I mean, Skyrim is so complex for the time that it's not surprising it took.
Oh
that long.
yeah, that game holds up as well.
It does.
So they should be re-releasing it.
It does. I got it. I got the remaster on PS4, but I put like 100 hours into it, and then I stopped playing really suddenly. It was really
Yeah, you
weird.
just burn out.
Yeah, I just put so many hours into it and thought I love this world, and then suddenly I was bored of it.
Yeah, that's it. It's like once the penny drops as to, hang on, what am I actually doing in this world again? Like,
Yeah.
what am I doing here? That's it. It's GG.
Exactly.
That's kind of why I often prefer, going off subject a little bit, that's kind of why I often prefer games that are a bit more linear, because I often find that other games, you lose yourself in them for a while, but then you're like, well, yeah, but what am I doing? What's the point?
Yeah, that's true. I mean, if you look at the sort of Sony games that they showcased, I mean, how many of them are open world? I guess Spider-Man's open world, isn't it? That's coming out. And you've got the Ghost of Tsushima. We don't really know a lot about that yet, apart from it's a samurai game. And it's interesting, isn't it, that you wait ages for a samurai game and then 3 come along at once in the same conference, like a bus, waiting for a bus. So you've got Sekiro, Shadows Die Twice, and you've got the Sony one, Ghost of Tsushima, and there's another one as well, isn't there?
It's funny like that. It's really funny like that, isn't it? It's like the penny drops in the industry at the same time for a lot of different studios, and they just jump on it.
Yeah,
it is really weird because you get it in films and books as well.
Flavors.
You get it in. Yeah, it's weird. It's very odd. But moving on from our positives, let's get to the interesting bit. I like having a good moan. So, what were? Let's go with you first this time, Sully. What were your negatives? What were the things that really got you back up on this one, if anything?
Can I just quickly drop just 2 of my positives that I had?
Oh yeah, sure, mate. Sorry, yeah.
I won't spend a lot of time on it. For me, it was just seeing what Microsoft is doing with Halo. And I know that's a boring kind of thing to say these days. Halo has been around for donkeys. But as like a fan of the series, typically, based on the existing schedule that it's always had, we were going to get one at the end of this year. But we've heard nothing about it. And I was pleased to see that, we didn't even get like gameplay. We didn't get a demo, and that's fine. I was happy to see that they're reworking, building an entire engine from scratch. And after I read I think it was Frank O'Connor's Waypoint post that went into more detail about what's happening with the series and the next installment, I just got this sense of confidence that they really felt they had to look after this franchise going forward. Not that they mishandled it, 343 or Microsoft, but they fumbled with Halo 5, and it seems like now Microsoft's giving 343 the time, money, and space to do what they want to do and get the next one right. And all the clues that were hidden in this game engine teaser trailer really point to a lot of healthy, positive signs in terms of like art direction. You're on a ring again. The game's called Halo. God forbid you be on a ring. At the end of the trailer, you saw Master Chief holding a very classic-looking helmet and sporting a very classic aesthetic armor-wise. So it looks like they're listening to the fans with what we wanted. We want to return to the classic art style. We want to go back to basic Halo roots. We don't want to leave the Chief behind. Chief was the focal point of this trailer. It ended with him.
Yeah.
So I'm getting a lot of positive vibes from what little they did show regarding Halo.
Yeah, it did sound like they come full circle. Just looking at that trailer, it was like, oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
And that's good. If they're listening to the fans.
It does hark back to Halo 2, doesn't it? When they did the Halo 2 announcements and stuff, the kind of generating of hype, getting people interested. That's not I didn't come up with that idea. That was something I saw Digital Foundry again were talking about the other day. They were saying that if you look at, they were actually doing a retrospective on Halo 2 and the way it was announced and everything.
Yeah.
And it was really funny because I watched that and that was the day before Microsoft did their conference. And then I watched the little Halo teaser and I'm thinking, okay, did Digital Foundry have their ear to the ground and know that Microsoft were going to do something, which wouldn't surprise me at all?
It's interesting, isn't it?
They do have insider knowledge.
Oh, absolutely. But I mean, like overall, I feel like my faith has almost been restored to a certain degree, and mostly just because it feels like we're not getting a Halo anytime soon. This was just an in-engine like teaser trailer, and if that's all they gave us, then it's a while off. It might even be a launch title in 2 years for the next Xbox, which is fine.
Yeah,
I just want them to get the breathing room to get it right, put the flagship back on course, and we'll see what it looks like in a year or two. But to just quickly move on through a couple more bullet points, for Microsoft, it was Gears of War 5.
Yeah, lovely.
And again, I know that could be a very boring one to bring up because it's been around for donkeys. But I felt like what they showed for Gears of War 5 was interesting because it felt like the storytelling has grown up in that series. I mean, when you look at the original trilogy, it was very slapstick, a lot of silly humor, and the concept was silly as well. But number 5 took it in a lot more of a serious tone and direction, and number 5 seems to be building on that again. So, I mean, we spoke about this before, John. I don't know if it was on an episode somewhere, if we were just talking about it, but I feel like at least the Coalition and potentially a lot of other Microsoft studios or just free studios that are around in general are paying attention to what is making Naughty Dog successful and the other Sony pedigree studios successful as well.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's a case of they're doing it because they feel like they have to, but they're doing it because it's working and they want to. They want to deliver these stories that, are growing up and they're more mature.
You can see that in Gears of War 4. I played the Gears of War 4 campaign. It was good. Yeah, it was definitely... It was. There's a lot going for it, that game. Yeah. It was...
Yeah,
it was intelligent storytelling, I think.
It was, and I think they're going to go further down that rabbit hole with number 5, or so it seems, based on what they showcased. Yeah. So I was just going to quickly finish up. For Microsoft overall, with like kind of my favorite IPs out of Microsoft, it's nice to see them, not being afraid to change up the formula in Gears of War's case, and just that they're maturing. Like, it's no longer just like the dude bro shooter. It's just refreshing, that it's not the same old stuff year in, year out.
Yeah.
Does it, to ask a question that's kind of linked to all this, if you look at what's going on with Halo, you look at what's going on with Gears, you look at the little video that just came out recently from Ninja Theory and how they said that Microsoft made assurances about letting them have creative control. Does this all smack of a kind of culture change at Microsoft?
I think
because it does
absolutely.
To me.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Well, Phil Spencer's been yapping on for a while now about how they're fostering it all and they want to grow their their pedigree, and it looks like he's been saying it for long enough, and we've been going, well, where is it? Maybe it's actually happening. I mean, at least with their first party IPs. They seem to have plenty of creative control, being Gears of War 5. I mean, Microsoft could have easily been like, hey, we want more Marcus Phoenix, do bro shooter, we want to keep catering to that same audience, but it feels like they're being given breathing room. So I think you're absolutely right there, Joe.
But it also reflects the sort of change in society, doesn't it? It's like you couldn't really make that kind of dude bro thing because the kind of I don't know, the zeitgeist isn't quite there. It's not about that anymore. No, I think it's
the audience is shrinking.
I think whether it's the Naughty Dog effect or the industry, and I mean we spoke about this again earlier, Joe, in terms of video games, is just growing up, and we've kind of reached this boiling point where the technology's there, the skill sets are there, the storytelling is there. They know how to tell a compelling story in that medium now, whereas that maybe wasn't the case 10 years ago. It was a little bit disjointed and they couldn't, you'd kind of get the game conflicting with the storytelling, and it doesn't seem to be the case anymore.
Yeah, there was a lot of that, wasn't there? Yeah, but less so now because, like you say, there's just a lot more skill. The technology is caught up, and the writing, they have proper writers in video games now, so... Yeah.
No, it's all very interesting. But I mean, in terms of just quickly, Joe, highlights, I think most of my highlights were with Microsoft being pleasant surprises. But of course, The Last of Us was a big takeaway for me. On the Nintendo side of things, though, Mario Party, I really, really dug that. I love Mario Party. Especially the older ones.
I remember you saying this. It appeals to me too, I have to say.
Yeah, and another little quirky one was Toad Treasure Tracker, that coming to Switch. I love all that puzzle stuff. That's a perfect Switch experience for me. And just to quickly dive back to Microsoft was Tunic, that little cute Zelda kind of styled Fox game.
Oh, that looked lovely.
More of that. Yeah. So those were my highlights. Most of them are probably in the Microsoft camp. And as well, because they touched on things like, hey, we're rolling more studios in. Here's what's happening with our services. I love all that informational stuff, and they get it out to you in a way that isn't boring. It's like, here's what's happening, bang, 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 and it just gives you that bright feeling for the future. So
yeah, I definitely agree. I agree. So
sorry for chewing up so much positive time. We can go on to the negatives now.
No, that's fine. So now unload. Give us your negatives.
Well, I mean, overall, I don't think I really had that many negatives. Now, I haven't seen all the conferences. I'm not going to watch EA's. Some of them I'm just not going to watch. I'm going to consume them in bite-sized chunks, like just playing catch-up and watching the trailers of the games online. I don't care what Ubisoft is doing other than the games they're bringing to the table. And the same with every other conference. That's not Microsoft, Nintendo, and Sony. I think the disappointing thing for me, though, would probably... I still think I'm still getting it from Nintendo. I just felt like there should have been a little bit more. And maybe that's being a little bit too harsh because we spoke about there not being any exclusives for Microsoft this year other than one, and Sony's only having two. And to be fair, Nintendo are going to have like two or maybe even three, I think it is, exclusives over the course of this year. But I think they botched the way they handled their E3 Direct. And we spoke about this, Joe, in the last Pocket Edition. They spent too much time. They spent 22 minutes talking about Smash Brothers. Now, I like Smash Brothers. A lot of people like Smash Brothers. It's one of the go-to games for the Nintendo system. It's a system seller. But I would have liked to have seen them slow down and demo some of the smaller stuff that's coming. Like they had Mario Party in there, but it was in there for about maybe like a minute or two. Why not go into more detail about Mario Party? Why not go into more detail about the Wolfenstein game that's coming to the Switch?
Yeah.
What's happening with your online service? Go into detail about that. I don't know. It just felt like they kind of rushed through a bunch of stuff that could have been interesting if they spent time on it, just to talk about Smash.
Well, I read out that list, didn't I, on Pocket Edition of all the games they're bringing, and you're like, some of these games are amazing. Why are they just like, we've got this, and this? They weren't those kind of games. You do get games that are just like little curios that you can throw out there. But some of those games weren't that. Some of these games were big, bloody games. And Nintendo just glossed over all of them and then concentrated all that time on Smash. And as you say, great. Smash, it's a very popular franchise. People want to play it. It's exciting that they've got a massive roster and all the rest of it. But really? Over 20 minutes on one game?
Do you think
and you know what? Sorry, Grant, go on.
No, I was saying, do you think it's because they don't want to showcase too many third-party games but want to just sort of push their own first party? Have they got a thing about giving too much airtime to third party titles? I don't know.
I feel like that's what you want, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, you do as a gamer.
You want your first party titles to just be known about. That's the bread and butter of the system. That's the stock standard given when you buy into a system that they're going to be there. Give them their showtime. People, you're on your 10th or 15th entry in some of these series. We know what these games are.
Yeah.
Just tell us they're coming, give us a scissor reel, bang, let's move on. Wouldn't you want to show, hey, but guess what? Just like the competition, you can get all these same experiences here, and this is what's unique about these experiences to the Switch.
I think it makes more sense, and from the perspective of you seeing it as a Nintendo owner or as a gamer, I would want to see all the third party stuff equally.
Yeah, instill confidence.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's so much a case of I was disappointed because it didn't seem like they had a lot to show. It just felt like that, and I felt like they squandered an opportunity to position the Switch for another strong year between E3s.
Yeah.
I know these directs are like almost, every month or two, but it just didn't feel special for an E3 direct.
Yeah, I agree. It felt really flat to me.
Mm-hmm.
I came away from it, okay, look, I'm pleased about the games that they've shown. And me, I'm not the biggest Nintendo fan in the world, but whether they're my personal favourite types of games or, my favourite franchises or not, it's kind of irrelevant in a way. It's more, are these games going to be appealing to the people who really want to play them? And yeah, of course they are. Nintendo games are always well made. You can't knock them on that one at all. But it felt really lackluster and flat. And I actually came away, and this shouldn't happen, I came away after the stuff about Smash Brothers bored.
I actually had a form of almost resentment towards it.
Yeah.
And I fast forwarded through half of it. So, but it's just, I feel like they not even missed an opportunity. I feel like they missed something very crucial. The opportunity to drive home, rather than driving home one game, drive home 20 interesting games.
Yeah.
Like Microsoft, yes, they stated that these games aren't exclusive, but they drove a lot of those games home.
Yeah.
It was almost like they were chalk and cheese, wasn't it? I thought Microsoft delivered well. I thought Sony, games aside, I thought Sony was okay. Nintendo, I thought was pretty lackluster, but ironically with some of the better games.
I wonder whether Nintendo sort of understood kind of like the format as well as say Microsoft and Sony did. It's felt like they did. I don't think they did.
Different.
Yeah. No. It's like you were saying from what you just said, Sully. It feels like it was just unbalanced, the Nintendo conference. It was like you say, too much on one game, and that risks alienating and boring people. basically. That's bad.
And something worth noting as well, which I think is very important, that direct would have had astronomical amount more eyes on that particular direct than any other direct, because it falls in alignment with E3 and it's viewed as the E3 direct. So people would have gone searching for that, wanting to see what was coming, not for just this direct, but what's coming for the next year between E3s.
Yeah.
And they missed that opportunity. They missed the boat.
Yeah.
Not only did they miss the boat, but they fell in and drowned.
Yeah, well,
almost. I'm sorry. I feel like I'm being hard on Nintendo, and I really don't want to be. I think they've had a great year. I think some of the games they've put out have been, even if they're not my cup of tea, some of them they're solid and they play well. Nintendo should be riding the crest of a wave at the moment. It should have been a real celebration this E3, and it wasn't. It was really odd.
It's not that they didn't have those games either, like we said. It was just presentation issues.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
With the exception, this is another one of my disappointments, was where was Metroid? You teased it last E3. Why did you tease it if you didn't think you were going to have anything to show this year? Even if it is just a scissor reel or a short trailer.
There were quite a few missing games generally, not just from Nintendo, but it's like I've sort of noted down, where was the Final Fantasy VII remake?
Yeah.
Where's Shenmue 3? It's like...
Yeah.
What's happening, It's like you say, if you're going to tease Metroid, it sounded like they just had they come up with the idea to make a Metroid game the last E3, and they've literally got nothing to show.
Like they had to have something to show, so I guess we'll make another Metroid.
Yeah, exactly. Just put this logo up,
Yep. Well, that's a dangerous game to play.
But if you do that and then you don't then continue on with it, you risk losing people's interest.
Exactly.
And I know that a lot of people are going to be chomping at the bit for Metroid, however long it takes. But they need to have given us something this E3, even if it was just another little trailer or something, just to show people that, look, we are still working on it.
When you start the hype train, start it. Keep it rolling. Don't just show us something and then not just forget about it.
Yes, exactly, because gamers will remember.
Like, what? It's weird. Like, they've just failed on hype train execution. Like, it's pretty simple shit.
Yeah.
Tease us one year, give us more the next year, and then launch it the year after.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Mind you, Sony have been getting away without doing that for years.
Yeah.
But they tease it every year.
I mean, it's something Nintendo should have paid attention to, is Sony, because, as much as, we liked Microsoft for one reason, we liked Sony for one reason, Sony being the reason because they said, we're going to have 4 games and we're going to drive those 4 games home, and they were great pedigree games. They were fantastic. Sony should have taken a similar approach, like grab your games that you think aren't going to grab attention, put them in a scissor reel, and then really drive home a few selling points for the system.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Simple stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And where was, do we know everything about their online subscription service? Like, surely, why weren't they trying to sell us on that?
Nothing!
Yeah, stony silence.
Don't get it. Just watch. Typical Nintendo. Next direct we get will be the Metroid reveal.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, we forgot this one, sorry.
It almost is like, oh shit, we want to do it for half. Did you notice the timing though in the Nintendo one? Okay, they went on a lot with Smash, but I was noticing the timing when they were cutting, and it was like to the minute. So they'd obviously organised this very, very tightly.
Thought about it.
Yeah, exactly. So it does make you wonder. They've organised it like that, and then they got to the end. They have everything exactly how they wanted it in there, and then they've gone, oh shit, we left out Metroid.
Reggie, you got the wrong USB flash drive again, I told you.
Fucking Reggie, scapegoat.
Yeah.
But you know what's the issue though is, like with Smash, right, is that there are a percentage of people that would have thoroughly enjoyed that Smash section, but those people are the people that are the hardcore fans of the series and the people that really get into the competitive side, which is not your general system selling consumer.
That's not what the main conference is for.
No.
Yeah. Have your own little exclusive release or mini direct where it's just about Smash and advertise it as being just about Smash. I don't know. It's weird, man.
They could do a tie-in with like esports, because it's almost like an esports title in its own right, isn't it? So why not do something with Twitch or something?
An esport episode where you cover Splatoon as an esport, Smash as an esport, and I'm sure they've got other esport titles or contenders for esport titles anyway. Like have a eSport Direct exclusive episode.
Yeah.
Well, they had shit like that running anyway throughout the course of the week, didn't they? So why didn't they just put some of that into one of those? They could have. It beggars belief, frankly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But anyway, let's stop ragging on Nintendo for a moment.
It's just frustrating. It's just frustrating.
Yeah,
like I said, the system itself is firing on all cylinders.
Oh, definitely.
They've been getting support left, right, and center for the last year. Like, everybody's been jumping on board saying we're porting, we're going to pick up development, we're working on something. And well, that's great. That's great news. But I thought we'd see some of that.
Yeah, they have tremendous momentum with the Switch, and you think they'd build on that at E3, but they didn't. They missed the opportunity to, I think.
And can I just point out one more interesting thing regarding their Direct that isn't a negative? It's not a negative in my eyes anyway. There was no talk about the 3DS. Just an interesting point to point out.
Yeah, very interesting.
It's they've said they intend on supporting it. To this my knowledge, it's still being manufactured. There's there's still people working on 3DS content. Not much. I know there is a little bit in the works, but I don't know. I just thought we'd get a little 2-minute segment with a sizzle reel. Here's what's coming to the 3DS owners.
Surprising that was missing, because like you said, they're obviously still making games, and hopefully not just in Japan, or because that tends to be what happens when the support sort of wanes for a hardware.
Happened with the Wii U.
Yeah, it gets focused on shrinking down to a narrower kind of region, so you only get like Japanese support. And we know what happened with the Vita. Sony have given up on it years ago, so
it's actually still going really strong in Japan, funnily enough, isn't it? It's really it's funny, that, isn't it?
It's
still gets new games.
Just a really small interesting point that I think is a positive to take away from the Nintendo Direct, just to try and end this on a positive, was and I use Fire Emblem as case in point scenario. Was the Fire Emblem series was a series that was always stuck on the dedicated portable handhelds. And I'm happy to see that I think it's still the same developer, but they've jumped ship and they're supporting the Switch now. And because of that, we're getting a far superior Fire Emblem game. So I'm happy to see that these handheld developers are jumping onto the Switch, and we're starting to see those experiences come across.
Oh, and they will more and more as the DS gets wound down.
Yep. So that's exciting.
Yeah, that is. I'm not a Fire Emblem fan personally, but again, it's if you're a fan of those games, then brilliant. That's great news.
Well, I'm a fan of the 3DS experiences because I like they're experiences that you just get on portable systems, like turn-based strategy and stuff.
Yeah.
Stuff that doesn't involve like 3D environments running around, first-person shooters. They're experiences where you can lay in bed on a weird, funky angle and just take your time and just enjoy it at your own pace.
Mm.
And we need that diversity, don't we, within games? We need lots of different types of experiences.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
What did you think was the worst bit, though, Grant? What was your...
Well, I have to say, it was mostly EA based, and it's no surprise. But it was bring the cringe with EA. The cringe.
I saw a video. Yeah. Somebody put the cringe. Yeah,
the cringe took different forms. Mostly, it was to do with the fact that they pushed so much of this sports angle, and I don't understand why they spent so much at E3 of all places, where people just really don't give a shit about their annualized FIFA and Madden. But they stood on stage.
Grant, money.
Yeah. Well, of course, there's the money. We know why they're doing it because we said before it was more for the investors, that side of things, when the actual...
Andrew Wilson only ever talks to the investors.
Yeah, but it was the fact that I don't know if you saw, they stood there and said, there's going to be a trial of FIFA 19 or something, and the audience there was no response.
Crickets.
And the guy just stood there as if he was expecting some applause, and nobody said anything. It was just...
it's so awkward when they do that,
isn't it? It was really awkward. And that guy who stood up with the Madden belt, they put some random guy who'd won some Madden competition.
Jesus
and that, honestly, it was like nails down the blackboard. It really was.
He gave the game away for me because he stood up there and he went, "We're up here chasing the money."
I know.
Well, you've just slayed it out for us. That's EA in a nutshell.
I thought, well, at least you're honest about it.
I did catch some kind of cringe highlight reel from EA, and the one that stood out to me was when they were going over the downloadable characters, for Star Wars Battlefront 2.
That's right.
And they They got to Count Dooku, and the guy's standing there waiting for a clap, and it's just dead silence. Nobody gave a f*** about
General
Dooku.
Grievous as well, I think was another one, wasn't it? It was like, oh, yeah. You could hear a pin drop.
I noted as well, they had Battlefield followed by FIFA. And when they did Battlefield, they went on about how they were not going to have loot boxes, and they made a big deal out of it. And there was a cheer in the audience, and everyone was happy. That was one point when everyone... No loot boxes. And then what's the next game they had on? FIFA, which is loot box challenge. Let's be honest. I mean, because Ultimate Team is just loot boxes by another name.
Oh, it totally
so they spent all that time going on about Battlefield and how it wasn't going to have loot boxes and shit, and then it was almost like they completely forgot that with the next game that they brought on, which says everything you need to know about EA, that they're not really interested in giving us a loot box free environment. They just want to make us think that they're on our side. They're not really interested at all.
I mean, carry on, Sully.
So I was just going to say, I'm kind of in that same boat as Count on this one. Like, it's sad when we have to celebrate that a game isn't having loot boxes.
Yeah, it is sad.
Exactly.
And that's being used by these publishers and developers as a selling point. It's just ludicrous.
Totally is.
It's just so cynical as well.
Yeah.
You know, when Wilson's up there going on about how we want our gamers to feel like they're getting a good experience and to feel like they're getting value for money. Not that they are getting value for money and that they are getting a good experience, but they feel like it. We want to manipulate them into making them think they're getting a good experience.
There was so much manipulative language in what he said. It was like, I mean, there was other stuff. It wasn't just the most obvious things that we've mentioned, like the FIFA. There was that bit where, I don't know if you saw, they went into the audience. Is it Andrea Rene interviewed Vince Zampella? And he looks so uncomfortable. He was like, "Oh, I'm going to be forced to reveal my game in this really uncomfortable manner, my Star Wars game." And he just sat there as if, he really desperately wanted to be somewhere else,
Yeah, I don't want to be here.
It's like,
please, Mum,
stop asking me questions.
This was Respawn Entertainment, wasn't it?
Yes, that's it. Yeah.
Now, I actually missed all of this. Did they reveal a new Star Wars game?
Yeah, they did.
Or was it just kind of... Did they have anything to show?
It was No, he basically just said it's called Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, and it will be out in 2019. He just looked... Every time he was answering questions, he looked like he didn't want to say anything, And it was just...
It would have been so much better to do what you were saying earlier on, Sully.
Yeah.
Sorry? What's this, sorry?
It would have been better to do what you were saying about a game previously. That it would have been better not talking to him at all and just doing a clip of a couple of seconds long with the title and the Star Wars logo or whatever.
Yeah,
and then leaving it at that and keeping people interested.
Get him on stage. Why wouldn't you get him on stage and show something?
Exactly. It's like the way they did it was so badly thought out. It's like, I can't believe somebody signed off on that.
Oh, dude, Vince must be he must be ready to neck himself.
Yeah.
Like, after how they just sent, Titanfall 2 out to the pastures to just basically die. Yeah, exactly. Or take it around the back of the barn and shot it.
A great game, and they murdered it, basically.
Oh, yeah. They stuck it right between, between Call of Duty and Battlefield. Same week, I think it was almost, wasn't it?
It was. It was like, yeah.
Holy shit. That's... Oh, wow. I just don't understand that. I don't get it.
Would you want to be a developer working for EA at the moment?
No.
Is Respawn Entertainment contracted, or are they owned by EA?
They were bought by EA, weren't they, after Titanfall?
Yeah. Fuck. I'd quit.
Yeah. This year, wasn't it? Was it this year or last year?
I don't remember it. I think
it was a few years ago now.
Yeah. It was literally not long after Titanfall 2 came out.
Yeah.
It happened.
I thought they bought them for Titanfall 2. Like, after Titanfall 1.
I don't know, they might have done.
Okay. I don't know. If I was Vince, I'd be knocking on the new culture at Microsoft and be like, "Hey, I want to make a new studio. Get me in."
Yeah. Come back over here. Well, they did.
You see,
they did.
We laugh, but that's something that would absolutely happen.
Yeah.
If he did. He did. Phil, I want a studio. You can own it. I just want to have more creative control and freedom away from EA.
Yeah, I mean, the sort of the last one in terms of like the worst of E3, I thought was these forced live performances that we got. In the Ubisoft one, we got that Andrew WK. It's like sort of this hard sort of rock performance, and the crowd were just sat there going, "How do we react to this?" You know, it's like it's like it was sandwiched in. You know, it was really. And then there was the guy playing the Japanese instrument, the Sony one. And it's just they felt really out of place. You know.
I actually found that really humorous, and I don't think this is clicking with anybody else, but last E3, Sony had a whole orchestra, and this year they're just down to solo performances. It's just like...
That's right, they had Gus...
And Joe pointed out maybe it's a financial issue again, but I found it really humorous.
Yeah, we got Gus Santalola on the banjo for The Last of Us. And
yeah.
I didn't mind that bit, actually. I thought that whole Last of Us thing was good, apart from the fact that because they had it in a different hall...
Oh, yeah.
They then had to up sticks and move elsewhere.
You've got to move
now, which completely ruined the kind of ambience of it. Which it was a real shame because I mean I know Count didn't quite agree with me on that. I really liked the banjo because being a fan of the game, I knew what it was about. Whereas Count hasn't played it, I don't think, and I think you're the same with me, Sully, and I think you would be too, Grant.
Yeah.
The fact that it was something we recognised and we knew what it was, it had an emotional pull on us much more so than somebody who hadn't played the game.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
So I liked that, but it was just the fact that then they had to oh no, we're moving now.
No.
Imagine being the press, having to pack up all your shit, or if you're plugged into power, grabbing all your crap and moving to the. You're like, come on, guys.
Exactly.
I was kind of glad. What's the guy who is he head of the Sony or PlayStation studio division that was doing the showcase, the presentation?
Oh, Sean Layden.
Sean Layden.
Yeah, Sean Layden. I just couldn't remember his name. If they'd stayed in that tent, my eyes might have started bleeding because he was so overexposed with lighting.
Oh,
He looked like an orange.
And he's got no neck as well, have you noticed? It's just
yeah. And he's got that really strange, kind of this long, strandy hair, but this really short, different colour beard. It's just... And then there's no neck.
He's a
and then the poor lighting. It's like, Jesus, what is happening?
Yeah, poor guy.
It's diversity.
I think I said he looks like an Ewok.
It's like someone's got a Photoshop filter and put it on him or something.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. That's the only thing I didn't like about the tent. Was the lighting.
Yeah. But I mean, that was pretty much it. I mean, there's just some cringy moments, really, for me that didn't quite work, but, you know...
I actually thought Bethesda had a few cringy moments. The first half of Bethesda I thought was a bit, it felt a bit wank-festy. We'd like to thank our fans and we've been working hard. And
that was a bit, yeah. I like I like Todd Howard, so I mean that bit I think was good.
It was great.
Yeah.
That when they had me at Bethesda when it was about halfway through where it felt like it started speeding up, but this was actually another really big highlight that I'd like to talk about was Prey. The way they're continuing support for Prey. And they're releasing an entirely new game mode, which actually looks really interesting.
That does.
There's a DLC out, isn't there? Moon Crash or something that's just come out.
I think it's free if you own the game. I might be wrong.
No, it's not free because I looked on Steam. It's not very expensive though. Because
is it standalone?
No, you need the game. You need the original game because I sold the original game on PS4, but on PC it's really cheap. So I was thinking of getting it again and just buying the DLC.
Yeah, I'm going to.
Yeah,
I'm sold on just that concept of rinse and repeat, trial and error to escape the moon. I think that's awesome.
It's great.
Yeah. And wasn't there another one as well where they said there was an online coming, and you could hide as the creatures and objects in rooms and stuff.
Oh yeah,
it's like a PvP thing.
Oh, that's neat. I didn't see that bit.
Yeah.
Oh,
so that's cool. But I mean, I was almost sold on the original game, but it was just kind of one of those ones that just kind of you're like, that looks cool and interesting, it might be up my alley, and it just kind of slips by and you just forget about it. I want it just to play the game.
I played it, I liked it, but I felt it was one of those games, Prey, where the first 3/4 of it was great, but it just dragged on too much towards the end.
Yeah.
And you felt like, you should end it now, really,
Yeah. Yeah. So do you think it's worth your money, though, if you can get it on sale?
I would definitely. I mean, I know that you can get the PC version for in the UK for about $9.99, like the original game.
Right, so it's about $20.
And then I think the expansion's like $11.99 or something like that. Yeah, so cool. It's not much.
I'll have to check it out.
It's well worth playing.
Say that's good value for money.
Yeah, Prey is one of those really interesting ones, isn't it? Like the story behind that game.
Yeah.
With its development cycle and how it was how they just took the name, but it wasn't necessarily ever a follow-up to the original. And then, remember they had that Bounty Hunter Prey version that they scrapped, and then they came up with this Prey version. It's really interesting how they just decided to take the name and use that as something to sell the product. I don't know, I thought that was kind of really interesting. Whether it's good or bad, I don't know, but...
I was sold on the preview. I saw a preview of Prey, and I thought, oh my god, this is like a cross between Bioshock and something else, and that's just right up my alley. So I bought it, but apparently the game didn't sell very well at all. I'd
heard that, which is another, plus point in the fact that they're still supporting it suggests that
it's good, it's healthy, isn't it? Yeah, that's typical Bethesda and like Ubisoft. They're pretty good with supporting games. Just for fun fact and knowledge, did you guys play the original Prey on 360?
I did, yeah.
I actually quite liked it. I don't know if it holds up, but it had a nice diverse arrangement of weapons. It was a really interesting concept about this Native American who got sucked up into space. I think he was trying to save his girlfriend, and he just gets taken by these crazy weird ass aliens. It was like kind of like it would almost be like a Doom 2016 but 10 years earlier, wouldn't it, Joe? Like it's just kind of really zany and crazy with its weapons and enemies and shit, and kind of dark corridor shooting stuff. Yeah, it's kind of crazy. Yeah, a lot of fun though.
Yeah.
Yep. Right. Well, that's the positives and negatives. So let's just finish up by asking the kind of the main question. Who do you guys think had the best and worst shows?
That's tough.
Out of everybody.
That's tough, Joe. You sprung this on me. Well, if we're going from a pure kind of pedigree standpoint, I think I have to give it to Sony. If you go from just a positive vibe perspective, I'd give it to Microsoft, and I'm going to say Nintendo's just bringing up the rear on all accounts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about you, Grant?
I wouldn't disagree with that. I mean, I thought Microsoft's show was the best compiled show. There was a lot of positive energy around it. Sony had, some good quality games to show. Nintendo, I didn't really watch it, I'll be honest.
I tried to. I fell asleep.
I like the Bethesda. I like the bits of the Bethesda show. I thought they were good. Ubisoft sort of annoy me a bit for some reason. I don't know why, because I like some of their games, but I just feel like they don't quite gel. They tend to do a lot of the same thing. I like the Division 2. That excited me because I like the first game. But,
yeah, I like the first one.
But yeah, I would say Microsoft just ahead of Sony, really.
Yeah, who thought we'd be saying that, eh?
Yeah, and
I would concur. I would add something that I think Sully touched on earlier on with the Microsoft one as well, is detail.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The amount of stuff we got from them was a lot, and it wasn't... they gave us a lot of detail, but it wasn't dull. They kept it quick, they kept it pithy, and they gave us a lot of information to unpick.
Yeah, something that could have been considered dull was the way they're changing the ready-to-play feature of when you start installing a game. They delivered that, with the Game Pass, they were enhancing that feature and refining it so you can play your game sooner. And that could have been really boring, but it was delivered in an exciting fashion. It's like, great, that's awesome. That's awesome news if you're a user of that Game Pass service.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. So yeah, I would concur. I would say Microsoft, surprisingly, especially as I was expecting. I think I said to you before, Sully, I might have been count, but I was expecting to spend the Microsoft conference bashing my head against the table.
Yeah.
And actually, I was sitting up and taking notice, and I was quite excited by it. Sony's conference was a mixed bag. I thought it was a mixture of highlights and lowlights. The highlights being the stuff related directly to the games in the sort of conference halls, and the lowlights being the talking heads bullshit, which they should have done outside of the conference, and they didn't need to do that in there.
That was weird.
But the games were phenomenal, and I thought they were just brilliant. I loved everything I saw of those games. Nintendo just left me flat, and if I'm going to go for the really worst one of the lot, I would say that EA left me spitting teeth. I wanted to punch Andrew Wilson.
It was horrendous, actually, in lots of ways.
Oh God.
So I think that's. Sorry, go on, Sully.
No, I was just going to say one final point about Sony, which could be considered, at least for me personally, as a disappointment, was there was no detail about the platform. It was all just about the games, which is fine because we buy these systems to play games, but there was nothing about what's happening with the system in the future or what developments are occurring or
I think
nothing at all. Not even PSVR.
I think that might come at PSX. Yeah, I mean, we might get something at PSX, but they did say it wasn't. There wasn't going to be any announcements for hardware, did they? This C3.
Yeah.
But yeah,
that's right. I mean, like they do, like TGS and PSX, they do use those stages to reveal some pretty cool shit. I think there was TGS last year that had some pretty big reveals and interesting information. Because like E3 is too crowded.
Yeah,
we all know this. So
yeah. Well, that's it then. I suppose we can basically. I think we concur that it was pretty much Microsoft. Probably were just about edging it as the best conference.
Yeah.
Sony were next with some fantastic games. And then the rest of them you can kind of shuffle about and decide for yourself, with possibly Nintendo being towards the bottom and EA definitely being at the bottom, being kicked by somebody because it was a shit show.
Yeah.
So that's about it. I think we can finish on that. Do you want to give everybody where you're at, Grant?
Yeah, I'm on YouTube under Over the Edge YT. I think you can find me youtube.com/c/Over the Edge YT, and I'm on Twitter under the same username, so that's Over the Edge YT. That's me.
Cool. And I'll put links in. And you, Sully?
You can find me at my geographical location down in Australia.
Easy enough to get to.
We're all going to visit.
Yeah, exactly. Get on a boat. No, I'm in a variety of places. You can find me at One Guy's Opinion on Twitter. You can find me at Gamecast on Twitter. But most of my time, honestly, is spent in the Gamecast Discord, where we have a nice little community growing. It's a great, thriving place for content and other content creators as well, who aren't just Gamecast members. And of course, the Gamecast YouTube channel, which is predominantly where all of my involvement and content creation goes up to. So, yeah, check it out.
Cool. And I will put in links to that. And as I say, go and check out their E3 coverage on Gamecast, because apart from anything else, I'm on some of them.
Yes, the pocket editions.
Yeah, exactly. And I sat in on one with Count as well, one of the live ones. But yeah, so check those guys out. And I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.